Hello friends, welcome in Neha's biology classes. In today's video lecture, we are going to discuss about the different modes of asexual reproduction. Fission, budding, spore formation, vegetative propagation. Let's begin with fission, which basically means division or splitting. So, fission is the splitting of a cell or an organism into two or more cells. Fission can be of two types: binary fission and multiple fission. Let's take binary fission first. Here, one parent cell or an organism splits into two daughter cells. For example, in case of amoeba, if amoeba has to reproduce, first, its nucleus will start to show constriction. Then, nucleus will divide into two nuclei. Cytoplasm also starts showing constriction, and finally, two daughter amoebae are formed. So, after binary fission, let's talk about multiple fission. Here, one parent cell undergoes fission, that is division, to form many daughter cells. For example, Plasmodium or amoeba. Let's take the example of Plasmodium first. The parent cell first undergoes nuclear division repeatedly. Multiple nuclei are hence formed by repeated karyokinesis. Each nucleus will be surrounded by cytoplasm, and a membrane after this will be formed. The parent cell will rupture, and finally many daughter cells are released. So, in this case, from one cell, many Plasmodium cells are produced. In the case of amoeba, during unfavorable conditions, it withdraws its pseudopodia and becomes almost circular. Then it secretes a thick layer around it. That layer is called as cyst. Amoeba remains in this condition throughout the unfavorable condition. When the favorable conditions approaches, it loses its cyst, karyokinesis occurs, multiple nuclei are formed, and gets surrounded by cytoplasm and wall. Finally, the parent cell ruptures and multiple amoeba comes out. Let's see the basic differences between binary fission and multiple fission. As you can see here, in binary fission, one parent organism splits into two daughter nuclei, whereas in multiple fission, the parent body gets divided into many daughter individuals. Binary fission occurs during favorable condition, whereas multiple fission occurs when an organism faces unfavorable conditions. In binary fission, nucleus divides only once, whereas in multiple fission, nucleus divides repeatedly. It means repeated karyokinesis takes place in multiple fission. During the binary fission, no cyst formation takes place, whereas during the multiple fission, cyst formation occurs. Another type of asexual reproduction is budding, where an outgrowth called bud is attached to the parent cell, which eventually gets separated and mature into new cells. Budding can be of two types: exogenous budding and endogenous budding. In exogenous budding, the bud grows on outer side of the parent body, as in the case of yeast or hydra. Let's take the example of yeast. Yeast, which we all know, is an unicellular fungus. When it has to produce a bud, it produces a tiny outgrowth which remains attached to the parent body till it grows to that stage when it can survive on its own. After that, the bud is going to detach and grows independently as mature yeast. Another example of exogenous budding is in hydra. In the case of hydra, the body is attached to the substratum and there are tentacles here. We can see a tiny outgrowth which resembles with the tiny hydra are attached on the outer side of the body. This bud will get detached from the parent body when it can survive on its own. In our book, one example of endogenous budding is given. In case of endogenous budding, the bud is formed inside the parent body. And one most important example is the formation of gammules in sponges. Sponges which lives in fresh water. Let's take the structure of gammules. You can see the central mass, which is called as archeocytes. These archeocyte cells are basically stem cells and it can give rise to complete organism. These cells are surrounded by a gelatinous material membrane which prevent it from drying as well as from injury. One more structure you can observe is the presence of spicules, which are endoskeletal structure present in sponges to provide protection. So how gammules help in formation of new sponges? Actually, these gammules are released in the water whenever it comes in contact with a suitable substratum. It will attach to that substratum and then archeocytes will come out through micropyle and form new sponges. Another mode of asexual reproduction is spore formation. First one is zoospore. Zoospores are motile and normally has flagella for movement. As in the case of Chlamydomonas, the spores are biflagellate and motile in nature. Another type of reproduction by spore formation is conidia. The basic difference between zoospore and conidia is that conidia is non-motile spore and it always produced in chain. For example, in penicillium, these tiny spherical structures are called as conidia, which will get detached and will ultimately give rise to new organism. Thank you everyone for watching my videos.